These rocky shores where I call home, where my heart longs to be. Whenever I roam, it's these rocky shores, it's where I long to be. Yes, it's these rocky shores, they are home to me.
Whenever I leave here, it hurts me so, with tears in my eyes. Why did you go? There ain't no work, and the kids need new clothes. The bills need paying, so I must go.
These rocky shores where I call home, where my heart longs to be. Whenever I roam, yes, these rocky shores, it's where I long to be. Yes, these rocky shores, they're home to me.
I think to myself, where did it all go? The life I once had on the ocean's gentle road. With tears in my eyes and my head in my hands, away from my family, I hope they understand.
That is these rocky shores where I call home, that's where my heart longs to be. Whenever I roam, yes, these rocky shores where I long to be. Yes, these rocky shores, they are home to me. Yes, these rocky shores, they are home to me.
Good evening, and welcome to This Week in Review. Tonight's stories include: they're back with great news for the fish plant, interview with Barbara Barter and George Reed, the Terry Fox Run was a huge success, these stories plus community events, the BBS Playbell, Off the Rack, and more, coming up after this.
What is the best investment you'll ever make? Bonds? Stocks? Physical activity? Participaction knows you get unlimited returns by investing in regular physical activity. More independence, more energy, more fun. Investing in your health means investing in your future. Physical activity, the best investment you'll ever make. Participation.
This week has been like an emotional roller coaster for our town, starting with Sunday, September 19, when a public meeting was called concerning our plant and its future. Most of the 250 people that attended last Sunday's meeting didn't know what to expect. Some suspected that the news was good because Mr. Bellberry was in town. Others were prepared for the worst. It wasn't long before we knew that the news wasn't good. Mayor Ann called the meeting to rally the people of Burgeo to go to St. John's for a demonstration to make sure that the crab from the Tiss fishery was brought to Burgeo, Ramia, and Galtos.
Gentlemen, I'm glad so many of you turned out this evening. I'll introduce the people here on the stage this evening is, of course, Bill Bowles, you know, George Reed is our MHA, Kelvin Parsons, part of the consortium, Bill Barry, Eileen from the union, Edie from the union, Arch from the union, and Gerald from the union. municipally by me, provincially by Calvin here. Our government, our owner is represented by Bill, and we've even got visitors here today from the province of Manitoba. So we do have a little federal involvement here, and I'm sure that Bill Matthews would be here. I spoke to him yesterday morning, didn't know anything about it, but I haven't been able to track him down this afternoon. He's somewhere on his way to Stephenville, I do know that much, and I'm sure we'll hear from him later. But anyway, getting all these formalities one side, it's just about a year ago, or it is a year ago, that we stopped here in the same building, the same place, and tried to put together a strategy to get our fish plant open. A lot of people think that we've won the battle, and that our fish plant will be open. In my opinion, we haven't got enough yet. There's not enough commitments. There's not enough signing on the dotted line to confirm it forever and a day for the town of Virgil. There's players out there, they might have good intentions. I'm not saying they don't. But I don't think that we can go forever and a day on a whim and a wish that the town of Port de Grave or communities in that area is going to say when Virgil is finished. I think we people here in Virgil has got to have a say in our own destination, what our future is. I don't think we can leave it up to someone else. I don't think I can leave it to Kel Parson. He could be elected next election, he might not. Can't leave it to Bill Barry. I can't trust him, I can't trust anybody, I can't even trust me. We got to have something tied down to this town. And that's the whole idea today. As I see it now, it's not good enough what have come down the tube. We didn't stay a full year, keeping our mouths shut, to find out how many people are listening to Mr. Dallywall on Friday. Did you hear what he said? We can't tell boats where to land. And if he doesn't tell boats where to land, they're not going to land in Virgil. That you can be sure of. And we got to go there. And we've got to lobby a little bit harder. And we got to let someone know that the South Coast might be 1,000 kilometers by land and only 300 miles by sea. But we're here and we're alive, and they got to damn well look out to us. They took from us our ground fish. Whether they did it on purpose or not, there was mismanagement, but for some reason, the trawler that we saw for over 50 years go up and down that reach is not going up and down there anymore. And it's time that they put it on the line. If they screwed up, if I go to prison for 20 years for a crime I didn't do, someone compensates me. And if they made a mistake, then they got to compensate the people who is the result of that mistake. And that's what we're here today for. And it's no good, I've got to ask this. I've took it as far as I can go. And I'm going into a meeting as far as I know on Tuesday or Wednesday. But outside that door when I go in, I want some of you people there supporting me. Because I'll tell you, when I walk in there, the decision is going to be made. They're only going to inform me what the decision is. They're not going to let me be part of that decision. But when they go in there on Tuesday, and you're outside, you're going to influence that bloody decision. So, having said that, and I never got a chance after our meeting this morning, I never got a chance last night to prepare and make the notes that I hope to make in this meeting today. But I took it as far as I can go. And I need your help tomorrow and during this week. And you must be committed to your town. This is not going to be a vacation. I can guarantee you that. You're not going to have a nice soft bed or anything like that. But we got to go in there, because if we think for 1 minute, oh yes, I've got every belief that this fall these harvesters will go out there and prove to us that they can do what we've said they can't do. But when the quota is established in the year 2000, which I believe is for 3 years, is that right, Bill?
Usually it's a 3-year management plan.
Right. When they got it, they're no different than you and me. Whichever way they can make the most money, that's the way they're going to do it. And you ain't going to make the most money steaming to Burgeo if you can drop it off somewhere else. It's just logistics. It's just mathematical. That it's not coming here unless we go and try to make it come here. We've got men here. I look at one there, captain, sitting right over there. Why is it that man haven't got a boat, a 65-foot boat, and a crab license? I'll tell you why. He didn't need it. That man didn't need the damn thing. He was fishing groundfish, making a good living, and supplying the people in this town. That is the reason that these people down there got all the crab licenses, because we didn't need them in Burgeo. But we've had taken from us what we had, and we want some of what they got. So, why the other people speak here today, and if you disagree with me, that's one thing I want to make it perfectly clear. Please put your wish here today, what you want done or you don't want done. Because, you know, I can't carry on. I mean, if you think everything is fine, dandy, you want to go home this evening, lie down and forget it all, that's fine with me. But when you wakes up next year, and you got nothing, and your unemployment is run out, and all you got is welfare, you're going to wish to hell that you got on board of a bus tomorrow.
The town rallied to the mayor for support, and on Monday evening at 6 p.m., 3 buses filled with approximately 150 people from Burgeo and Ramia made the long trip to St. John's. The business community made their presence known as well, with donations of pop, chips, donuts, and money.
Oh, yes, you are.
approximately 2:30 p.m. on Tuesday, the news came over the radio that Burgio, Ramia, and Galtos had gotten what they came for. We took our cameras to the wharf on Wednesday when the buses arrived back in town. We attended the public meeting held on Thursday for an update on the plant situation. Mayor Ann answered questions from the audience.
Back. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you all here this evening. It's good to see a turnout to what the results was. It's as good probably as it was Sunday. But the reason I call this meeting this evening is mainly that I know many of you must have a lot of questions on your mind to ask and to explain to you just exactly what did come about in St. John's. There hadn't been a chance to really explain it to anybody, and even the people who were in St. John's, you could only speak and get a few words out, then something else would happen and so on. There was never a get together. So it was difficult to get out just what did happen. And I guess to really explain some of it, you've got to give a little history, because I know you've heard this word exploratory fishery being tossed about and wondering what exploratory is and so on. But anyway, the old thing is that we've been trying to get crab outside of the 200 mile limit, or rather outside of 200 miles. And it's new areas which haven't been fished that much in the past. And before scientists will give approval for more quotas and so on to take more crab out from there, they need to have evidence so that if they do something, they can at least say that they didn't do it by just flipping a coin, and that there was some scientific evidence went in there. Now there was a test fishery out there last fall, and that resulted in an increase in quota for the year 1999. Now, the increase quota in 1999 was fished real fast in the spring, and the results of that fishery was really applied as evidence or some information towards what could be called another exploratory fishery. They're looking at increasing the quota outside 200 for the year 2000, but they wanted some more information. So therefore, the minister approved an exploratory fishery. That's a fishery which there is no quota. They fish certain spots. They have trip limits, and they fish it until such time as they get enough information to say yes or no, there will be an increase in the year 2000. So anyway, the minister announced it, but he also announced that it had to be fished by the existing fleet. Now, as you know, Falcon Seafoods had so many vessels geared up, which they had hoped to move into that fishery and to get into the exploratory and bring the fish into Virgil. This made quite a resistance from the existing harvesters. And these harvesters are from the Labrador coast. It's called 2J, 3K. They come down, now they'd like to get at it, but they're not allowed to fish it either. But there's another group of fishermen which is in 3LNO, it's the Port de Grave, down around the real northeast coast. So these people, when they heard the companies was getting in, they stood up. And they said, no way, there's not going to be no new entrants in this fishery. Now, when they said this, of course that put us in a bit of a bind, because if Falcon Seafoods couldn't go out and harvest it, then how were we going to get fish into Virgil? So therefore, they said that they could and would fish it and land it in Virgil. And that was their fight, that they said they would do this, and that was the reason they won, and therefore the Falcon Group's boats got kicked out. So now, we've got the exploratory. The people who said they could do it and would do it, there's nothing in the minister's statement that said they had to do it. So of course, that's the reason why we had to go in there Monday and see what persuasion and pressure we could put on government to see if there was some way to make these boats to live up to their commitment of fishing it and bringing it, and I'm using the word Virgil, but it's South Coast Ports. So that's the way that our meeting started. And I'll tell you that in the exploratory fishery, I think the scientists have put out 40 test areas. So, you know, the boat just doesn't go where she wants to go. She's told which area is to be fished. That is the way that you go about it. You have so many catches in each area. Well, when we sat down on Monday morning, it turned into quite a tough meeting, because first started out with quite a row between the 3LNO fishermen and the 2J3K fishermen. 2J3K weren't allowed to fish, they wanted in, and 3LNO were allowed to fish. So this turned into such a schmozzle that it looked as if there would be no exploratory fishery in 3LNO this fall. Now, if there was going to be no exploratory fishery this fall, then there would be no increase in quota in the year 2000. And I can tell you, when these two groups of fishermen go at it, they really go at it. Anyway, in the middle of this, we get involved, and I'm certainly not going to try to tell you everything that happened, but it was going downhill and going real bad. And it got so bad that we had to call a recess. But during the recess, the groups started getting together in the corner. One was talking to the other, and one and the other. And when we came back to sit down, it was put to them just what was going to come about. And it was real surprise when one of the fishermen stood up And he said, we will fish the fish. And he said, we will land it on the south coast ports. All of it. Not half of it, not a quarter, but all of it. Now this is exactly what we wanted. This was acceptable. There's got to be a lot of the mechanics figured out, just as who's fishing in what area, what the trip limit is going to be per trip, and so on. But that's all things that started and was worked on almost immediately. And as of this time, as far as I know, that most of that has been worked out. Now, it looks as if it's going to be about a 35,000 pound trip limit. There's 120 boats, plus 120 under 65, I believe it is, and 3 larger vessels. Each one would get one trip. However, it's more realistic that there may be 80 boats, because some of these boats won't be taking part. Some of these boats are only 45 feet. So that's what the situation is, and they could be sailing as early as next week. And it is possible that you could have crab in your plant next week. A lot of things is going to depend on, of course, the weather. I can't tell you how many weeks' work you're going to get. All I can tell you is, for any of you who haven't got any stamps, it is quite possible you're not going to get enough. But then again, that's not for sure. They could run it till the end of November. I don't know. So that's the thing, you know, you just can't figure out. When the scientists said they've got enough information, they'll cut it off. Or if the weather is so bad they can't get any more, they'll cut it off then. There's a lot of concerns. Weather is going to play a big factor. You're talking 65-foot boats, 250 miles out. Another thing is, and this has been the debate, and this has been an argument ever since the announcement. Some are saying you cannot land this crab without using refrigerated seawater. Those guys are saying they can. They say they can land a top-notch quality product in the Burjo without using it. So you can stand up and one fellow say, I can't do it, and the other fellow say, you can't do it, I can't. You know, you just can't win that argument. So the only thing you can do is go out and do it. And of course, the proof wouldn't be in whether they can do it or not. If this, the most worst thing that can happen in this exploratory fishery is if it doesn't turn up any crab. I mean, if it's not there, well, that's tough. But based on previous ones, that's not what we'll be expecting to happen. If it is there, we've already, a few of us, went into an area that we think that will bring it about for next year, whereby we'll be getting fish into this plant. And I must say, we would like to get it probably coming in about April, and if we could get it leveled out so that you could have a steady flow of crab for perhaps 6 or 7 months of the year. I think I've touched a good bit. I didn't make all that many notes, so I probably left out something. So I think at this point, I would certainly leave it open and see if any of you got any questions. Is there any questions you had coming in that you got answered now? Or is there some that haven't been answered, could you ask? Well, they're at the meeting.
The folks haven't got fuel enough to go down there and bring it back to Riverville. They haven't got it.
Now, we can stand there, that's what I said, the argument, you can't do it, you can do it. That's the argument we were talking about, can only be done one way. We'll find that out.
Take it up.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to say nothing about that. Not according to the way they're writing it up. What they're saying is they've written up agreements in the shrimp fishery as well, whereby you police, you make your own rules and you police your own self, so that you sit down as a group and you sit down the rules, and if you violate the rules, then you get knocked out of the fishery or something like that. I just don't know really what it is, but they say that's not a problem. Any questions? I can't tell you how many people's going to say is for the question Keith is asking there, you can sit forever and argue about that. You can, you can't, you can, you can't. I know Nelson Bussey guarantees he can come to the south coast. If you're catching redfish, bring it into Galthouse right now, same boats. The problem wasn't fuel, it wasn't the boats. The big concern, as I get it, is keeping the crab alive. And they tell us, and that comes from Mr. Effer's department, that if it's not a top product, then that's out. The other thing is, they say if you transfer crab, if they bring it into St. John's and put it on a truck, and then bring it into Burjo, there's a less chance of it arriving alive than there is if they bring it in boat. Mark Small, I'm going to mention him particularly because Sam Dunford is skipper on board of his boat, but he's one of those guys up in 3K who's looking for a chance to be able to go out in 3LNO and make just one trip. All they want is just 2 boats from 2J, 3K, and they've got 100 and something boats to go there. And the man turned right around and to me and he said, I told Sam Dunford, he said that if I get a trip of fish, Sam, you take my boat, you go catch a load, and you take it to your own town. And I know that man was sincere when he said that. And he told me that he can guarantee, and apparently he's got some of the best boats. There's some of them boats can't do it. Like I say, there's 120 plus. More realistically, you're looking at 70 or 75 that won't be making the trips. I don't know. I'm certainly not going to argue with them that they can or they can't. They've been in that fishery for 30 years.
They look at boats at Barry's where they go south.
These boats cannot do it.
Why not?
They're not with the existing fleet. There's no more licenses. If they have been fishing last year or something like that, maybe.
Well, if they're allowed to fish it, if those boats can't bring top quality crab,
I doubt if they will this year.
so where's that leaving? We got square one?
You could be. Could be. But that's the thing that's got to be said. And one thing about it, like I started off with, if you don't have an exploratory, then you definitely get no increase in quota next year. That exploratory is really important. Yes?
Elsewhere, I like to boats fishing before they gotta leave the fishing ground and go back to port. Is there any particular day sort of thing on this before they gotta leave port, leave the fishing ground and go back to port?
Well, I think that once they start taking crab on board they can't fish much more than 24 hours because that's increasing the time the crab is in the hold. And you'll get, well, these fellows told me they guarantee there's going to be dead crab because like everything, there's fishermen that handle their fish well, there's fishermen that don't handle their fish well. But those who ice well and look out to it well, they figure that they'll bring in good fish. But those who don't, of course, they'll bring in dead fish.
Well, last year, for 72 hours, from the time fishing on board, you had to land the plant that we got in Bristol.
What's that, Jim?
Last year, when you started fishing, you had 72 hours. From the time the first fish on board, we had to take it out.
That you had to be taking hit out, right? Well, they figure that the longest steam, you got a variation of 7.5 to 8 mile an hour for those boats, and perhaps some goes 10, I don't know. But what they were giving out there, I thought they said they were talking a 40, 45 hour steam. So that would give you 45, 55, 65, 75, just about 30 hours fishing, I guess. But Jim, you fished out there, didn't you? What's your verdict? Can they bring it in or can't they? Can those boats fish there? You did? Is that right? You've seen some of these 65 footers, so.
Now, after all those out from out there, we were very cool, like cheap at 80.
Yeah.
There was no 65 footers out there. At least we were missing there for one trip, it was money scale.
So, your crab that you didn't have in refrigerated seawater was pretty healthy when you came in. Just ice, and it was in good shape. You think it could have lasted a few more hours?
Well, less longer than that, guys. I mean, when we were taking it in, so we could come in just with what we need some water.
So you figure you could have steamed a bird with it?
Well, you could come this way, I don't know if the bird was.
Well, you don't know, but.
You're looking at another 24 hours at least.
Yeah. talked about, and if these people can't do it, well then that's when the department's got to look at another way of doing it. And this time, these people can't look up and say they can do it, because it'll be proved that they can't do it. So that was the whole idea probably behind that.
One March fog, the trust of it, it's not able to go down there and see that person for a few.
That's not Mark, the Patrice S is not Mark's boat.
Yes, it is.
No, sir, Mark's boat is the Mark line.
I'm sure of the Mark.
Well, perhaps you can't, but I don't know.
No, I said, you went last week and stayed 24 hours on a wild goose chase, and he had to go back to finish the trip. The name is the trust of it, Mark Small.
Well, anyway, like I say, I'm not going to have a meeting, and we're not going to try to sort out here tonight and discuss that meeting on Monday morning and just bring back the information, Anybody wants to be in that argument with Dick Fishman, I'll give the phone numbers, get at it. Okay? Any more questions there as far as, your plan, anything that you think is... The thing is that we've got as good a commitment as it was ever possible. That you couldn't get any more than that. I'll guarantee you on that. That's right. The other thing is, I'll pass on to you anyway, that I did speak to Calvin Parsons and Bill Matthews, and I believe you'll find that there's things going to come out already as far as maybe trying to arrange some work projects or work jobs or so on, if there's not enough work comes out of this, so that you qualify for your stamps. Like I say, the big thing that it seems to be, the big thing is weather and can they land it alive. And at least we'll find that out. So if there's nothing more, I'd just like to, over this time, the last year, we've worked with a lot of people, and I think personally I would like to, even though some of them are not here right now, but I'd like to thank George Coley, Owen Marsden, Bill Bowles, Robert Sims, River Barnbarter, George Reed, Sam Orton, Doug Candle, and Gerald McDonald. That's who our committee started off as. There have been a number of meetings. We've done as best we can. I don't think it's the time for naysaying. I really don't. And I really would like to thank those men and women who went in on that bus there on Monday and came back yesterday. I'll guarantee you that if we hadn't went in there, and if we hadn't got somebody inside that door to sit down at that meeting, you wouldn't be getting this tonight. That I can guarantee everybody sitting here. And I can tell you right now that your MHA and your MP, they did a perfect job. Yes, you can look up and say, well, that's their job, but that's what they should be doing. Well, we all know that. But I think you've seen them in the past, and they didn't do it. And another person who's got to be given a lot of thanks in this is Mr. Ridge Anstey. I don't know what you think of the union, what you don't think of the union. But I'll guarantee you that Ridge Anstey have worked day and night at this, and is still working there for our town. And so when your chance comes in public, and I've got a funny sneeze suspicion that Ridge is going to be here sometime, and if he's talking to you, I certainly would like for one of you to stand up and thank Ridge, because he put one awful lot into trying to get your plant open. And that I guarantee you. I think I've said just about everything. If a question crosses your mind, then go ahead. You, George, do you have a few words?
I just want to thank the people for going down on that bus. 90 people that went from Virtue. Probably everyone couldn't go, but that was a large representation for this town. And like Alistair said, you would not have got this deal, whether you consider it to be a good deal or not. You would not have got it. It's the first step of many that yet got to come. Well, it's saying there, this fish might not get here, it might die out in Randy or Lawless or die down there somewhere, you know, but it'll be proven that they can't get here by that means. And if it's proven that they can't get here by that means, then of course the test fishery is not over with. It just simply means the transportation of the crab is not the right way of doing it with these boats. So I would say at that point in time, then we'll have to go after the proper way of bringing it to Virgil, Randy, and Lawless. So I don't think that if the fish don't get here this year, it'll give you 8 or 10 weeks of employment that all is lost, because I think it's proven just what Walt is saying, that this fish can't get here in good condition. Whether it can or not, you would argue that all night. The union fellows said it couldn't. Rich Hansey said that they couldn't do it. And this is one of the reasons why the companies went after these refrigerated water boats. I mean, I think they got 5, something like that, ready to sell to harvest that crab. I mean, they were told in no uncertain terms that the regular harvester couldn't harvest it and bring it to South Coast in good enough conditions to make it viable. So if it's proven that these guys are right, well, then the harvesters are wrong, and I guess then the test fish will have to be done by the proper means. And I guess that's where a group similar to this would have to go after it and see that that is done. But my gut feeling is that we wouldn't have been sitting there at all talking about this part of it if that step hadn't wouldn't have been made Monday. Alistair didn't tell you there, but we stood, the rest of the people that went down there will tell you, that we stood for an hour, 3 mayors, the representative, your political representative, for an hour out on the pavement before these guys got asked into the meeting. There was no formal invitation to come into that meeting when they got there. They were just standing out on the pavement just like we were on the beginning of that meeting. And then they were invited in. And I got a feeling that if the 150 people that were there or more weren't there, you would not got any invitation. These guys would not got an invitation to go into that meeting. So you can be happy that these people went down from here. I mean, that's the way I feel about it. So I think they should be given a hand for doing that. So what comes out of this deal, we've taken the first major big step of many more to come, I'm sure. But it's there now. These guys said it all in the meeting to everyone, to all the different representatives, that they can put this crab on the South Coast, and that they will do it. And I don't think there's any backing out on that stuff. They just can't do that. So the future is not, of course, rosy, but it's much, much brighter than it was last Monday. And I think we got a chance now for this town probably to survive and build on that. Thank you.
Well, there's not much more that I can add to it than what Alistair and George have said, but it did come to mind there. I would like to, I guess on behalf of the committee, to thank the different businesses and some of the individuals that donated food and other means to us while traveling into St. John's. It was really appreciated. Yes, well, I personally is going to have an optimistic feeling that this is going to work. Sure, we're going to run into a lot of problems this fall because you're opening up a new business that none of you people have ever worked at. You've got a lot to learn there, and I'm sure there's going to be bugs in the plants when you start using them. There's mechanical things that's just not going to work the way they should, and so on. And that's going to be a good thing because they'll try to get all of that out this year and get prepared for next year, and I'm certainly optimistic it's going to come about again next year. However, I'm going to close by saying that, there have been some weird stories in the past about quality of product and one thing or the other, and making the companies work and making it work right. And I really think, that this very well could be our last kick at the can. So therefore, I certainly would like to ask each and every one of you to go to work and go there with an intent that you're going to make your plant work, because it's your plant, it's your town. I think we see now what can happen when our plant closes. So in closing, all I would say is work together with the company and work will come to your town. Everyone get behind your company and everyone will benefit. It's your plant, and for the very simple reason it's your plant. It's not because you paid dollars and bucks for it, but because it's in your town. Thanks a lot for coming this evening.
Stay tuned for more of This Week in Review coming up after this.
Participation, finding solutions. Larry's challenge, effectively managing his weight.
I've had a weight problem or a weight issue. It's certainly an issue, with my family. Diabetes, heart, the blood pressure.
Larry gets encouragement from Canada's Physical Activity Guide.
I think it opens the door to saying, go for a walk. That counts too.
Larry learned that physical activity doesn't have to be hard work and exercise. It can be fun times with friends.
Physical activity is one of the tools that makes you get out and do something. It's fun. It's something you do with people and you feel really good.
Oh, good night, Dad.
These are great moments.
Larry's right, and the guide can help you too. For your free copy of Canada's Physical Activity Guide, call 1-888-334-9769. Participation says, try it.
On Monday of this week, we spoke with Barbara Barter and George Reed, who are working on a proposal to develop information, communication, and technology in this area. In our studio today, we have Barbara Barter and George Reed to talk about a proposal to ensure information, communication, and technology to the Southwest Coast. Welcome to our studio.
Thank you.
Mr. Reed, we'll start with you. Can you give us some background information on how this proposal came about?
Okay, about a little over 2 years ago, we talked about rebuilding our cable system. Now, I probably should give you a little bit of history about the cable system and why it needs to be rebuilt. As you know, of course, that electronics is changing pretty fast just about every year. The system that we have here now is a pretty old system. We started back in 1982 with this cable system. And when we put it in, we had what they call a 200 megahertz of bandwidth, which meant that we could have a maximum of 25 channels on. At the present time, we got 32 channels. So we can't add any more channels. Some people would like to have more channels out there, but we can't add them. Besides that, the channels that we do have, they're not all good all over town. There are places in town that the higher end, the channels on the higher end, like up on the past 25, and the higher you get up, the worse it gets, is that the signal is just not good enough, not strong enough, because we've overloaded the system already. And as a result, of course, these people that's on the end of the line ends up getting snowy television that's not good like it should be. I mean, this day and age, the capabilities is out there to give everyone crystal clear channels. And of course, the other thing is putting on more channels. There are more channels out there. Now, one would argue probably there's enough on there and probably enough of everything on there, but that's not quite true, because there's a lot of good channels out there that we would like to put on for the people of Burgess, and we'd like to put them on as soon as we can. Besides that, of course, is that the wear and tear on the equipment that's on the poles
It's been going on since '82, and a lot of this needs to be upgraded, and upgraded badly. And I suppose I could continue with what we've been talking about here. What we've looked at, we've got a study done on what it would cost us to get this job done. And it runs in a range of between $200,000 and $250,000 if we did it on our own. Now, we don't have that kind of money in BBS. As you know, of course, this is a non-voluntary, a non-profit organization. We make very little money. Last year we made about, I think, cleared around $7,200. There have been years which we haven't cleared any. We've just balanced, and there were a few years when we actually lost money in the company. So that's because, of course, the rates are so low. We try to keep them as low as possible. And but we do have, since '82, we've managed to accumulate around $60,000 in the bank. Now that money is there, of course. That's built up over the since '82, and some of this would have to be used to start the rebuilding, and some of it would have to stay there in order to maintain your system as you go on. You have to have a cash flow there that has to be kept in the account at all times. But if we do it on our own, we're looking at between $200,000 and $250,000. Now, this increase, this new rebuilding would give us what we call 750 megahertz of bandwidth, and with that we could have approximately 110 channels, and that's analog channels. And I think there would be, if it was all digital, it would be around 200 channels that you'd have the capability of putting on there. But you know, that's where we're coming from in order to be able to add more channels to the system. Now, if we go that route ourselves, we're looking at getting a bank loan of probably between 150 to 200,000. And a bank loan of that magnitude over a 10-year period would demand that we raise the rates probably around between $4 and $6 per month. And that would be a fairly increase, which we, don't want to do, and we didn't want to go this route if we could find another route of doing it. And we thought we had found another route, and this is where Mrs. Barter comes into play here. We've set up a committee, of which Mrs. Barter is the chairperson of this committee, to bring in a project to go after the money in the federal, provincial governments that would see on this coast a major, Mrs. Barter will explain it in a little while, but I just wanted to say what part it would help us, how it would help us. It would help us to rebuild our system, which is our prime concern. And in rebuilding, our obligation would be approximately $25,000 we would have to invest, and we would probably have to put in a rate increase of 50 cents per month per year for the next 5 years, which means that at the end of 5 years you'll be paying $2.50 per month more than you are now at the end of 5 years. At the end of the first year, it would be only 50 cents more. End of the second year, it would be $1 more, $1.50 to $2.50. That's what I mean by that. That, of course, would just still bring the rates in Burgeo in a 5-year period only up to about, I think, around $18 or $18.50 plus your taxes, which would be, of course, as we all know, the cheapest rate still in Newfoundland, or probably in the whole of Canada for that. And our main objective, of course, in here at BBS is to keep the rates as low as possible, but give you the best television that you can possibly get. And that is, we're not trying to move away from that at all. That's our main concern. But we can't rebuild a system, whatever way we go, without having some input of new money. So basically, that's probably what all I got to say about it. Mrs. Barrett will explain what this project is that involves BBS.
For, like George said, you're the chairperson of the committee. Why are you looking into such a project for this area?
Well, first of all, like Mr. Reed said, the BBS wanted to improve their facility to improve the service for bird jail. But then at the time I was, when I started at this, I was a high school principal and was looking at how we could offer alternate means of education if we had to provide a better service. And then in looking at this whole southwest coast, if you look at Grand Brit, Burgeo, Grey River, Ramia, Francois, that whole area, we fit a category, I think, that's different from everyone else in Newfoundland. We're the closest together on this coast as a group. So in talking to people in healthcare and talking with people in education, there's a realization there that some regionalization has to occur in order for this coast to get as good a service as we can. So we looked at, the 5 communities and said, okay, the population here is very small. It's not like Stephenville, Port aux Basques, where you can call in other areas and gather up a fair number of population. Our population ranges from a community of 60 probably up to about 2,000. And altogether, we're only about 4,000. So we're geographically distant from all other communities. Our transportation for Burgeo has the Burgeo Road, but then for the other communities it's either by boat or by plane or helicopter in order to get in. We all developed our past histories on the fishery and fishery resources, and our unemployment and our business base already reflects that. And we've been in existence for about 150 years all along this coast, so there's a clear indication that we don't intend to move, that we want to stay. And we're all, I guess, facing the challenge of being able to deliver quality services in health and education. Plus, I think we need to diversify in our economy and look at alternate sources of businesses if we want our communities to grow. So when you take all of those factors into consideration, we had to look at some sort of mechanism that would help link us together regionally. And the technology that the BBS would put into place would help us do that.
What are you hoping to achieve with this project?
Well, I guess the overall goal for the project, for the proposal, and I'm using the word proposal because that's all it is. It's in the proposal business plan stage. It's a draft form. It hasn't been approved. There are no monies available at this point in time. We're seeking monies and seeking support from different government agencies. But right now, this is still in the talk stage, and we're still negotiating and dialoguing and seeing what government fundings we can come by. If we're successful in receiving those monies, then what we're looking at is putting a technology in place that would help make these communities more viable. Look at alternate ways of business, look at alternate ways of being able to give health services, particularly diagnostic health. Just to give one example, I think in Port aux Basques at this point in time, patients can go in and have a cardiogram done and have it read in Corner Book at the same time because they're hooked up technologically. So that's the type of service that we're hoping for here in healthcare. And Burgeo having the Calder Healthcare Centre and being the hub of the Southwest Coast, tied to the BBS with this type of technology would be able to do that. So we're looking at webbing, I guess, with other communities and connecting to our larger centres such as Stephenville and Corner Brook for some of the expertise that we don't get now for healthcare. And we're looking at basically the same type of thing for education. We're experiencing it this year and last year, for example, in advanced mathematics. But there are other courses that we never offer in these communities, in our own communities on this coast, because we don't have the personnel to do it. But there are other ways. I mean, there are art teachers, for example, in Stephenville that can connect if we had the technological capacity to be able to offer that. And then with business, promoting technological advancement for business development within this community and within the other areas of the coast. So the bottom line, I guess, is looking at business, rural economic development, looking at education, and looking at health, so that the ultimate goal is to provide a better service for all the communities on this coast.
So in essence, basically, most everybody in these Burgeo and surrounding communities would benefit from a proposal of this type.
Very much so, yes, very much so.
Okay. Is there anything else you would like to add before we go?
No, I think
No, just to make it clear to everyone that our system has to be upgraded. I mean, or their system, or whatever word you want to use here. The Burgeo broadcasting system has to be upgraded. It should have been done yesterday. So I mean, that's how needy this thing is, and it will get done in the future, and hopefully sooner than later. Hopefully this project that Mrs. Barter is chairing here is going to be successful. And if it is, it'll bring a lot of expenditure in this area in relationship to equipment, top of the line equipment to do the jobs that she's talking about, and hopefully to do the job that we want done here with the minimum of cost to the people in Burgeo. So, and like Mrs. Barter said, this is still in the talking stage. So there's no increases tomorrow or next month or next year at this point. We're just talking that this is a proposal, and these are the figures that are in the proposal that we're using for the proposal. But nevertheless, whatever way Burgeo Broadcasting gets upgraded, it's going to cost us in the future.
Okay. Thank you very much for joining us today. And good luck with your proposal.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Terry Fox Run was a huge success again this year. Approximately $1,500 was raised for this worthwhile cause. The money raised at these events will go a long way in helping in the fight against cancer, which means we will have more survivors of this dreaded disease. The organizers, pledgers, and those who donated should take a bow. Stay with us for Off the Rat, the community events, and the BBS Playbill, all after this.
Participation, finding solutions. Getting active is easy. Canada's Physical Activity Guide shows just how easy it is. Larry chooses to play volleyball with neighbors. They're having fun. They're also enjoying the benefits of physical activity.
Well, it's just unbelievable fun. I hope you have a great time.
Larry's solution is a participation solution. Try it.
Off the Rat. This week as we scanned our tape rack, we came across a tape of a moose on one of the hollands not far from Burgeo. Let's look back to September 1989.
There were some residents who decided to get a little closer look at the moose. Good evening and welcome to the community events segment of tonight's broadcast. I'm Jennifer Marks.
Flu shots have arrived and are now available at the hospital. These shots are recommended for any senior citizen and for anyone with a chronic medical condition that warrants receiving a flu zone vaccine. The flu shots will be given at the hospital on Wednesdays between 2 to 4 p.m. However, if this is your first flu shot, please book an appointment with your family doctor. Curriculum night will be held on Wednesday, September 29th for all parents. Primary parents are invited at 7 p.m. in your child's classroom. Elementary parents are invited at 8:15. Please be notified that the preparation of the deceased remains for burial is outside of the scope of practice for the registered nurse and the licensed practical nurse. As a result of this, effective October 1st, 1999, the nursing staff at the Calder Health Care Center will no longer be responsible for preparing the deceased remains for burial. This will include the deceased remains for patients in the acute and long-term care unit. As of October 1st, 1999, family members will have the responsibility for making arrangements for burial. Information regarding alternate choices for burial arrangements will be made available to the community before this effective date. The UCW will be having their fall sale on Saturday, November 27th. There will be more details regarding the sale later. The driver examiner will be in town on Wednesday, September 29th to do written and road tests as well as photo IDs. The Burgeo-Lapoil Liberal Association will be hosting a dinner and dance in Port aux Basques on Saturday, October 2nd at 7:30 p.m. Guest speaker will be the Honorable John Efford, Minister of Fisheries and Aquaculture. Tickets are $17.50 each per person and may be obtained by contacting 1-800-518-9479. To be able to attend preschool, your child must be 4 years of age by December 31st, 1999. If your child qualifies and you are interested in registering your child, call Michelle Mercer at 886-1212. Who did not receive a community calendar for 1999 but would like one for the year 2000 can pass the information along to Stan Kosser or any other Lions member. Anyone interested in becoming a community representative for the St. John's Central High School Council, please contact either Millie Durnford at 886-2822 or Scott Linehan 2590. The Burgeo Lions Club are looking for Sea Cadet officers immediately. Anyone interested to take over as commanding officer or supply officer, please contact Jim G. Marsden at 886-2449 or Guy Han at 886-2527. Minimum requirement is grade 12 or equivalent. For more information, please contact Jim or Guy. If your group or organization has an upcoming event plan, we will be happy to broadcast it for you. Just call the BBS office by Wednesday of each week to have items included in this portion of our broadcast. That concludes the community event segment of this week. See you in 2 weeks.
BBS Playbill. Tune in on Tuesday at 7 p.m. for a rebroadcast of Pansy's Garden. On Wednesday, we will have a video entitled Big Game Hunting in Newfoundland from the Department of Wildlife Video Library. Tune in on Thursday when we will have another video from the Department of Wildlife called Shoot or Don't Shoot. Join Pansy and the gang for 2 stories of craft and lots of fun on Saturday morning at 11 a.m. on Pansy's Garden. There will be no news program next week because I'll be on annual leave, but I'll be here again in 2 weeks' time with This Week in Review. For This Week in Review, I'm Marie Rose. Good night.